Hello, everyone, and welcome to another horrific review. Okay, tonight I am reviewing Abigail, directed by Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillett. Tagline is: after a group of criminals kidnap the ballerina daughter of a powerful underworld figure, they retreat to an isolated mansion, unaware that they're locked inside with no normal little girl. Right. This is one of my catch-up lists, as I said, of you know how these things build up. So it's a case of, right, let's start covering these. I know I'm a bit late to the game, but you know how it is. Life, schedule, streams, and stuff I'm already covering. There's only so many hours in the day. But it is all good. Anyway, also, it's been a while since I've done one of these by myself. Hope I remember how to review movies without help. It's all good. But yeah, this is a good one. I have to say, this is simple plot, uncomplicated, essentially a vampire slasher flick. There's nothing new or breaking the box about it, which is fine sometimes for a movie. Just follow the formula, go through the motions, just entertain people while they go along. So we have a bunch of characters. There's a team, what is there, about 5 of them? Six. Sorry, a team of 6. So essentially what they're there to carry out a heist. And it comes obvious at the start of the movie that they're actually there to perform a kidnapping. So they're breaking into a house. It's them found out last minute, which I think is very strange. You kind of have to know who the target is, or else you grab the wrong person. But they find out last minute who the target is. It's a little girl. It turns out she's the daughter of some rich, influential person. So they're kidnapping her for her ransom. It's got a very Reservoir Dogs feel about it. So if anyone's seen that movie, it's using the same premise of Reservoir Dogs, but they're putting it into a vampire movie. So nobody knows each other's names, and the difference is instead of being Mr. Pink, Mr. Blue, Mr. Black, all that kind of stuff, they're going with Frank, Joey, Rick, basically the Rat Pack gang, Frank Sinatra, all that kind of stuff. So everyone's given a name based on the Rat Pack of the era. It's pretty much the same thing. So we'll start off anyway. Abigail giving some sort of performance to an empty theater. She's doing a ballerina dance. So it's almost like her ballerina practice. She hires out the entire place to herself, dances about in front of nobody, and then jumps into her limo and gets taken back to the house. We see the team come in and do what they do. So we've got Joy is the medic or something. Basically she's the one that handles the drugs and the syringes. So it's her responsibility to do the, to knock her out. Frank is the sort of operations planner, the team leader, if that makes sense. We've got Rickles, who's the sniper, so he's basically on Overwatch, looking for people coming in and that. We've got Dean, who's the driver, Sammy, who's the hacker, and Peter, who's the bronze, the hard muscle. They're all hired by this guy called Lambert, and he's basically setting the whole thing up. So what they do is they kidnap her and then make their escape, just as the set off the security and stuff get out. Now, straight away, this is telegraphed to you who the disposable characters are. For example, 5 seconds after meeting Dean, he's toast. He's one of those rapper, the drawly voice and the yo dude and all that kind of stuff. He's one of them type, and he's in the car with Sammy while she's doing her things, and he's trying to like hit on her and that kind of stuff, and just acting like a loose cannon. What's funny is these are supposed to be professionals, and straight away you get the impression something's wrong because they just act in an absolute chaotic manner. And then they're told by Lambert, they're brought to like this mansion. Lambert tells him basically it's a 24-hour job, babysit the girl for 24 hours, and then they share out the payout. This is where you kind of have to let go of reality a bit. Yes, there's no heroes in this movie, by the way. They're all scumbag criminals, every one of them. There's no good guys, if that makes sense. So you get that impression from the start. So if you lean into the movie realizing that, then you kind of go with that, and it's fine when stuff happens. But of course, the bit that got me sort of suspicious is, oh, there's a bar, it's supposed to be a job. Can people really not go 24 hours without getting off their head? So it already feels like a setup. And it's telegraphed anyway, it's a setup. So I'm not really spoiling the movie. I'm not going to go into too many details because it's a decent watch. But it's a setup, and there's something not right about the whole scenario and the way things are meant to be, if that makes sense, the way the operation's meant to go down. It goes wrong very, very quickly. So, of course, everyone's just sitting, and Joy is the point of view character. She's going around, she can tell who everybody is and all that kind of stuff, bit of psychoanalysis and stuff, and they play this pointless game. Now, you would think if you're on a job of this nature, you would just buckle down and keep your head, just keep your head down for 24 hours. 24 hours is really not a long period of time, but these people can't go 5 minutes without opening their yap and sharing all their innermost demons and feelings and flipping Dean's he just trying to put his penis into everything. That type. So I hate his type of character. I just despise what he represents. It just irritates me. So I was glad when he went. So needless to say, not everybody's getting out of this. It is a slasher at the end of the day. And the trailer kind of lets you know what's going on any roads. Sure enough, everyone's doing their button heads with each other like within 2 minutes of coming in. It's very Reservoir Dogs. The difference is with Reservoir Dogs is they at least take a minute and they give the semblance of being a professional unit, and they know what they're doing. Yeah, there's a few egos not flying about, but it's only when things go tits up that in Reservoir Dogs we all start turning each other. These folks are not even in the room like an hour and they're already doing it, and it's just like I said, it's kind of telegraphing what's to come ahead, which is fine because at least it doesn't drag on too long. That's one thing I'll say about the movie. Now, it is slightly longer. It's about an hour, 45 minutes or something. So it could have done with shaving off a bit of time. Because at the end of the day, like I said, it is just a slasher flick. It's nothing spectacular. And sure enough, we get the first person wiped out. That's Dean, which I was quite happy with. And sure enough, then from that happening, they find out there's this hitman that basically they find out who Abigail's the daughter of, and he's essentially a criminal overlord, and he has a hitman called Vasquez or something. Lazar's the Abigail's father. What the hell's the bloody name? I think it's Vasquez. Valdez. I was close. Sorry, Valdez. My apologies for that. So yeah, Lazar has a notorious hitman, Valdez, who can get the anybody anywhere. And they start thinking that maybe they're locked in the house with Valdez, or Valdez has got in and starting to take them out one by one. And he's notorious for playing with his victims, so it's not necessarily a straight hit, if that makes sense. It's more about sending the message. And of course, if you've seen the trailer for this and the poster and everything's telegraphed, it's not. It's Abigail herself, who's a vampire. But you start to realize as the plot goes on, there's something more toward, and it wasn't a simple case of them happening to kidnap a girl who turns out to be a vampire, and the story unfolds and things get revealed, which I'm not going to talk about because obviously I don't want to spoil the movie. Yeah, it seemed to have done pretty well. It was only made in 28 million as well, so didn't quite make his money back, but still, this wasn't heavily advertised, so maybe there's a bit of savings in terms of marketing. But yeah, that decently. But that has been this year. Horror movies have basically kept the box office going. They're the only movies making profit. Now I think what do you call it? Deadpool and Wolverine has made a profit, but every other film's flipping tanked. What else has made a profit this year? And pretty much same as last year. Very few movies actually turned a profit outside of horror. That's what I find so hilarious when people thumb their noses go, "Ew, you're a horror fan. Why would you watch that stuff? Ew." And well, obviously people agree. It's keeping the box office doors open while everything else is tanking with ridiculous budgets and overbloated cast and everything else. But this essentially is it's a comedy. It's a dark comedy. So I think people need to understand the difference between that because dark comedy is what I like. It's comedy with a bit of an edge. It's that gallows humor. It's not slapstick. I think when people hear a lot of horror comedy, they're expecting goofiness, which does exist. There's loads of, and we have covered loads of films that do have that. But when you're getting the dark comedy, it's a bit edgier. And if you're not familiar with the horror genre or you're maybe wanting to try the movie for the first time and you're expecting laughs and giggles galore, you're going to be shocked because that's not what dark comedy is. It's let's just say when one of the characters has their head removed from their shoulders and then plunked back on and a fall, it's that whole setup that it's done in a ridiculous manner that it's only those that get that humor will laugh at it. Where a normie coming in for the first time, like, oh, it's a head, and they'll completely miss the comedic element of it. I think that's a good thing to emphasize is what dark comedy is. It's just that bit more of an edge. It's using the goriness, it's using the grotesqueness of the situation and throwing in a bit of gallows humor just for effect, and it works. And if you really appreciate that sort of thing, you're going to be laughing at this, and that's what this is. So sure enough, everyone realizes very very quickly that they are locked in the house with a vampire because the mansion that they're staying at has automatic security systems and they get triggered. So everything just locks down, shutters and stuff. So then we start getting the whole, okay, what it's a vampire, what do we do? What type? And then it's Sammy's like, well, what type of vampire? Are we talking about Nosferatu? Are we talking about Twilight? Are we talking about Blade? There's loads of different types, which once again is funny because the vampire genre of movies has become so distorted from what was traditionally known as a vampire. And I've made this complaint about monster movies in general because a lot of people run out of ideas, so they just start retreading. So we've got this blending between a vampire, werewolf, and a zombie because people are just retreading the same old stuff and then trying to edge it up and make it new. And they're not making up new monsters and they're not stretching themselves to create new lore or even to create interesting stories within the existing lore of what a vampire is, what a werewolf is, what a zombie is. They're three very distinct creatures. And like I said, over the years, especially the last 20 years, it's all become blurred and amalgamated. So when people ask what's a vampire, it's like, huh? Is it one of this type? Is it one of that type? Is it one of the other type? So sure enough, that gets played out. It's funny. They decide that they're going to try and go hand to hand. The fashion stakes. One or two of them have crosses. They go to the kitchen, find there's a joke which is done in this. It's just every one of the characters is represented that maybe they're not the professional that you're thinking they are. And once again, maybe there's a subplot to all of us. I'm trying to do it without spoilers. But this comes to the fore as things ramp up. and they try to fight back. And there's quite a few funny scenes playing with the tropes of vampires. So we, like I said, we'll have the crosses, we'll have the garlic, we'll have the steaks, we'll have sunlight. We've all that brought in. The only thing I don't have is holy water because there's no way to get that where they are. So that's all fine. And yeah, it is like I said, it's a ridiculous dark comedy. It's great. Had a lot of fun with it. Your initial reaction at the characters when you meet them is a bit of but it's necessary for the plot. And then you forgive it very quickly. So that's one thing this story does is change that. The only thing is, Joey, the main character, she's an addict, and I'm sick and tired of this trend of making addicts out to be heroes. Now, somebody gets off the wagon, somebody goes back in the beaten track and repairs their life, fine. But this strange culture of almost justifying what they do and making it society's fault and not, and giving them no personal responsibility whatsoever isn't right. It's almost fetishizing it, and it's stupid, and it's irritating, and it's been done far too much. And they do it with Joey's character here. It's a shame because she could have been one of the more fleshed out characters, but she just became, like every other addict, we have seen in movies, and it's bloody annoying. Oh, there's Andy. How are you, buddy? So yeah, we get to play with each of the tropes. Everyone has a story. And as we go through the characters, we kind of find out what their story is. And there's also a bit of, are people playing off against each other? Are people being planted in this group that aren't there for the same reasons? And what's going on? And the job they were given, basically, who's behind the job, who's pulling the strings, and what's the bigger game plan. And it all happens from the minute that they find out about Lazaro, that Abigail's essentially the daughter of not just a mob boss, but we're talking kingpin levels of scary, people you don't mess with who are above mob bosses that control the mob bosses. It's that level of almost legend. And then you're thinking, well, this isn't just a straightforward kidnapping then. So they're starting to put the pieces together of what the interplay is and what the game is being played here. So is it a takeover? Is it a rival mob? Are they meant to gather a ransom? Is Abigail meant to survive? Is it potentially supernatural? Are they basically being hired by vampire hunters? All this comes into play until the reveal. I'm being very vague because, like I said, I do not want to spoil this movie because it's actually really enjoyable. And it's fun not to know how it turns out because with a movie like this, it's good to go along for the ride. Now, it's rewatchable. There's no doubt about that. I'll happily rewatch this again just as a bit of a fun romp, if that makes sense. But it's good to watch it the first time and not know how this plays out because that's part of the fun of the movie is everyone else figuring and the double dealings and the deals being made and who contacts who and who's on the outside looking in and how have they come to be where they are. One thing that's amazing about this movie, and I'm so glad they did it, is they use practical effects. Tiny bit of digital blood. I mean, it's barely noticeable. But it's not like illegal levels. As you know, the stance of this channel is digital blood should be made illegal, especially in horror movies. Don't be action movies you want, but digital blood should be, if you're making a horror movie and you use digital blood, you should be sent to the clink, sent the reopen Alcatraz or somewhere. And anyone that uses digital blood in movies, that's where they go. That's my stance. But the use of practical effects in this is great. And the level of gore is fantastic. Like, they do not shy away from it. Takes a wee minute getting there, but at the same time, we're not strung along too much. It's a nice build up, and considering the fact that it starts off with a bloody kidnapping, you know, it's not like we're missing any action. A wee bit of the sharing feeling bit when they're waiting for the next part to happen is a bit much. They could have cut out a bit of that there, bit unnecessary, and I think it's kind of, we know Joy's the final girl, if that makes sense, or potentially the final girl. They telegraphed that a bit too much at the beginning, so maybe they've had to dial back on that a bit. Would have been okay. It's my only sort of feeling, but storytelling. The wee girl here that plays Abigail, she is bloody amazing. I have to say, hats off to her. She, if it wasn't for her, this would have been a dud. She owns this movie, and she deserves it to be the title. You know, the character that she plays to be the title. She really does own this, and you're not too sure at the very beginning, if that makes sense, what sort of character she's going to be. But when she gets into her own, and the use of wire work in this, because there's wire work used in this, and her when she goes into vampire mode and embracing it and basically being a sadistic killer is so much fun. And it's great. You know, it's so hard with child actors to get them to play a decent role. You know, I mean, they're normally very, not their fault. They're only young. Um, it's a dark comedy. I think I was saying that before you come in there. It's a dark comedy, and there has to be a differentiation between the two because, like I said, people expecting hee hee hoo hoo, you know, normal comedy and slapstick comedy are gonna be taken aback by this. So if you appreciate dark comedy and a bit more of the edginess, then you're gonna love this. Because I was having an absolute, but then again, I'm a bit of a sick puppy, so nobody's surprised there. But yeah, definitely. Alicia Weir plays Abigail. Not familiar. I'm not familiar with any of these actors, to be honest. Oh well, Giancarlo, who plays Lambert, familiar with him. But she owns this role. She's absolutely fantastic in it, and I'll be excited to see what she brings in future. I suppose just wrap up and say, should this have a sequel? No. There's the potential for a universe, if that makes sense, at the end, because the story just, you know, it picks off at a point. But I don't think this needs a sequel. I think this is one of these one and done, a unique movie, and so be it. You know, quite happy with that. If they do make a sequel, I don't think they'll catch the lightning in the bottle that this one is, because there's not really much else they can do with the story, and that's fine. You know, and I think the movie industry needs to understand this. It's okay to make standalone movies. Not everything has to be a franchise. Not everything has to spawn 100 sequels. So I'm cool with that. But as a unique film, a dark comedy, and just that, you know, it's no brainer. It's just you go along with what's there. You're not getting anything new or unexpected. You know, it follows the tropes. The only difference is the characters and the storyline has a few twists and turns. That's fine. But all in all, just a good old romp, good old vampire flick, plenty of blood and guts and gore and body parts and people freaking out and stabbing each other in the back and falling to bits and character reveals and all that kind of stuff. You know, if you want a bit of that, go for it. It's really fun. You need that, right? You need that sense of humor. A normal comedian, you can't just pull off dark comedy. It's a genre on its own. It's a niche, and you have to have that gallows humor to pull it off. If you don't have that gallows humor, you know, if you're the type that will shy away and go, ugh, you know, instead of laughing at certain scenes, then you're not going to get it. And then if that's the sort of person that doesn't get that sort of stuff, then they're not going to be able to write it either. You know, it's just one of them things. But yeah, this one pulled it off. Really got it. Really enjoyed it. So there you go. There's that. Nice quick one. I am going to try and get a few more movies done over the weekend. I've got a back catalogue here building up, and I don't want to do another movie marathon, so I'm going to try and get 3 or 4 movies done at between now and Sunday, because obviously next week's busy week. Next week's like boom, 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 all the streams at once. So we don't want to hang back that. But I'm on with Flea tomorrow, and we are covering Akira. So if you fancy delving into some horror anime, come and join us then. And just leaves me to say, until next time, keep up the channel, do those type of clicky things, and remember to keep it creepy, keep it horrific.